An epic day in the Champions League. Two teams going for the remontada. Two teams who've accomplished the remontada before in Barcelona and Liverpool. 5 goals scored, zero remontadas, and one sending off, which I think, as part of this podcast, maybe we should celebrate. I guess maybe we should have some confetti. We'll figure that out as we go along. But an amazing day in the Champions League. This is exactly the kind of football which, as an Arsenal fan, I feel we're missing. Attacking sides, teams really going for it, putting it all out there, and at the end of the day, at the end of the day, I should say, Atletico Madrid and PSG booking their place in the semi-final of the Champions League. For Atletico Madrid, their first semi-final since 2017, and it is already set up to be a bracket buster for most people in the Champions League. I, for one, didn't have Atletico in the semi-finals of the Champions League. I don't know how that sets up a potential Arsenal Atletico clash, a rehash of the 2018 Europa League semi-final, but we're going too far. Arsenal have not qualified yet. So let's dive into Atletico versus Barcelona as our first game, because if I'm being very honest, Atletico were really good. Over the two legs, they deserve the credit for overcoming Barcelona, for scoring the goals, for winning the last tie 2-0, which put them in an extremely good position in the Champions League. But if I have to be very honest, this tie was kinda won and lost by Barcelona. I feel they did the fair chunk of the work over the two legs of this tie, because we saw today, like, Barcelona are an attacking phenom. What they brought to the pitch, what Lamine Yamal brought to the pitch today, is unmatched in football. When they get going, their attack is phenomenal. They can score goals at will. But then this game also showed us the Jekyll Hyde version of Barcelona. We also saw the deep discrepancy, the deep faults that lie within their back line, and how Hansi Flick chooses to play football. Because if they had even 10% more discipline, Barcelona could be in the semifinals of the Champions League, because their attack flourished today. Today, 30 minutes of this game, it was all Barcelona. They were flinging attacks, they were pressing high. They knew this is their opportunity to go out and make their mark and win this game. And Lamine Yamal, at 18, is one of the best footballers in the world. I have this like memory of the Euros. When was it? In 2022? Or not 2022, 2024, the Euros. And I was a bit of a Lamine Yamal doubter. Like, he's been incredible, but how high can his ceiling actually be? I used to wonder. And then just watching him play through those Euros, I was I was a convert. I was on board immediately. I was watching him every couple of days playing for Spain, and this kid has it all. And today, in the first 30 minutes, he did bring it all. He was there ready to rip Atletico Madrid, get the goals for Barcelona, and he did open the scoring really early on, 4 minutes into this game. That's exactly when you want to get a first goal, when you're 2 goals down in this competition. Longley, who had a terrible game, he could have been involved in 3 Barcelona goals. Unfortunately for him, he was only involved in 2 Barcelona goals. But giving the ball away cheaply, like, I don't know what he was trying to do. He was surrounded by players, and in this pressure, decided to pass back the ball so easily intercepted. Ferran Torres playing it in for Lamine Yamal, who will not miss. 2 minutes before that, 2 minutes into this game, he almost incisively dribbled through the entire Atletico backline and got a shot away. This time it was just him and Musso, and he does so well to put it past the goalkeeper. Barcelona 1-0 up within 4 minutes. And then they had a chance 20 minutes later. to double their lead. A perfect start to this Champions League game. They couldn't have written it better themselves if they tried. Ferran Torres getting in behind Longley again, very suspect in the defending, couldn't get to his man, and an awesome finish by Ferran Torres. That is an incredibly tight angle. He lifts it over the goalkeeper. I thought this may probably ricochet off the bar and go anywhere, but he does so well in that position. 2-0 at this point. Barcelona back in the tie. And I remember reading comments on Reddit, the live comments from fans watching this game, and everyone's there thinking about it. It's a remontada all over again. It's happening. And it felt kind of memorable, the fact that like Atletico Madrid, Diego Simeone have not lost a home tie in the Champions League knockout stages for years on end. I don't think he's ever lost a home tie in the Champions League as long as he's been Atletico's manager. And there they were, 2-0 down. And this almost got worse a few minutes later. Lamine Yamal again with an outside of the foot pass into the box for Fermin Lopez to head in. He dives in for the header. He gets the ball, but then he also gets a face full of Musso studs right on his head. Unfortunate for him. That should have hurt. That could have hurt. That did definitely hurt him. And Barcelona putting the pressure on so early, it could have been 3-0. They're 2-0 in this tie with 60 minutes left to play. But then Marcos Llorente pops up on the right-hand side for all of Barcelona's amazing attack. Their defense. I don't know how they choose to play this way in the Champions League. Because the Champions League isn't about just bravado. Like, yes, great attacking teams win the Champions League, and that is definitely an asset to have. But when you play with such a high line, when you play with no plan B, with no way of defending, when your defenders aren't interested in defending, that's a problem. And attacking sides win the Champions League, but bad defensive sides never win the Champions League. And that's kind of the two sides of this coin that Barcelona have to deal with. Because it's good in La Liga, because the opposition, with all due respect, isn't that good. They don't hold a candle to Barcelona or Real Madrid or these sides. But in the Champions League, over two legs, you have to have discipline. There's a way to manage the game, and Barcelona didn't do that. Very reminiscent of Spurs versus Chelsea from 2 years ago, when 9 men were on the halfway line and were hit behind counter by Chelsea. And today Barcelona set themselves up. There were time and time again that Atletico Madrid knew that they could get something out of this game. They didn't need 2 goals. They needed just 1. And the amount of space that Barcelona left for Atletico Madrid, they knew this was coming. They knew this opportunity was coming sometime in the game, maybe not this early on after going 2-0 down, but they took that opportunity, and Ademola Lookman is there to tap it home from a Llorente cross. 2-1, back in the lead for Atletico Madrid, back in the driver's seat. And from that point on, I felt Barcelona lost a bit of their early attacking prowess, especially in the second half, because what they brought in the first half with their extreme XG, I think it was about 1.5 XG for Barcelona in the first half of this game. In the second half, it was just 0.66. And it's not to say Atletico created a lot of clear-cut opportunities. There was a Lookman shot from outside the box, which deflected off a Barcelona defender and went outside. Lenormand had a chance, which was point-blank saved by Garcia. But it wasn't like these two teams were ripping each other apart. It wasn't like Barcelona could create much more of note in the second half. And this was compounded, all the defensive errors that we talked about, compounded by Eric Garcia's red card, exactly the same way that Kubarsi was sent off last week. And if we're talking about a side not disciplined, just not in it, to win the Champions League, this is the sign, because you don't get 2 red cards over 2 games in the Champions League. That is just absolutely crazy. And in the beginning, I thought maybe he'd get away with it because looks like Koundé was there to maybe cover for it. But that wasn't the case. It was a goal scoring opportunity. He was brought down. Trossard Light was going to give this as a red card, and he did. Barcelona again for the second time in 2 weeks, down to 10 men, struggling. And that's just the story of this game. That's just a story of how Barcelona blew it for themselves. Araujo had a chance late in the game, and people keep talking about that header because he was unmarked, but he didn't get that on target. He should have done much, much better with that opportunity, but unfortunately for him, that was just not going to be the case today. And Atletico Madrid make their way to the semi-final of the Champions League for the first time since 2017. There's this clip of Rafinha after the game kind of mocking the Atletico fans, and I'm going to bring this up on the stream for those watching. And this kind of just like was extremely funny to me. He's mocking them and he's telling them, you're going home in the next round. And I just find that absolutely cringe, because they may play Arsenal in the next round if we manage to make it, and we'll cover that in the preview at the end of this podcast. But don't put money on it, Rafinha. We haven't even beaten Sporting yet, and Atletico can beat both Arsenal and Sporting the way both of these teams are shaping up right now. So all in all, a great game in the Champions League. Moving on to the other game, which is PSG versus Liverpool, or Liverpool versus PSG, I should say. My thoughts from the first game were that Liverpool are diabolical. Those few games that Liverpool played against Manchester City and PSG last week were just the worst of Liverpool. And they haven't been great. They haven't been great since maybe the turn of the year. And in PSG and Liverpool, they're two teams with kind of contrasting form. I feel Jan of last year, as soon as Dembélé moved into the center forward position, PSG took off. PSG have been unstoppable since they won the Champions League. They've been really good this season. They are one of the favorites to win it this year as well. But since Jan of 2025, Liverpool have kind of been start-stop. They've kind of been falling off. They had the Premier League kind of done and in the bag, which was awesome for them. But genuinely, like right now, or like looking at Liverpool from like last year, they were slowing down, and that kind of carried into this season. And they just have not been great. And there's a lot of pressure on Arne Slot to turn this around. Personally, if you ask me, I don't think he's the guy to do that. I don't think Arne Slot is the guy to take Liverpool to another Champions League or another Premier League. Because what he has shown over these 2 games is abject man management. He has not set up for these games well. In the first leg of this game, with 5 at the back, which just didn't make sense, it was still ripped apart by PSG. My so far goal of the season, or assist of the season rather, is João Neves playing it into Kvaratskhelia in the first leg of this game. And this time, he goes with a front 2 of Ekitike and Alexander Isak. Ekitike has been really good this season. He's had a season plagued with injury, but still 23 goals and assists in 44 appearances for him. That's awesome. That's what you want from a center forward that you spent so much money on. But Isak has been more injured than Ekitike. This game demanded Liverpool to show some energy, show a fight. And that didn't come until Ekitike had to be forced off in the first half with the injury that he got, and Salah came on. It is baffling that in a game like this, when you have to get the crowd going, when you have to get the players going, when you have to make an impression and kind of scare PSG in the beginning of this game, you don't play the machine that you have. Mo Salah has not been great this season, but you play him in this do or die game. You play the guy who's brought you home a Champions League, who's taken you to Champions League finals, who's been there, done that. But instead, they go with this weird formation with two in the middle, with McAllister and Gravenbach, and then Wirtz playing higher with, who's it? Who's he playing with? Oh, yeah, Sabazalai, of course. And Liverpool didn't show fight. They didn't show any fight until Salah came on. PSG could have threatened early. There was this shot that Dembele took from outside of the box. There was another Dembele chance where he kind of swiveled and the volley and hit it far over. But when Salah came on, his first contribution was crossing it into the box. Hakimi was able to get to that. And Marquinhos, with one of the saves of the season, getting in front of Virgil van Dijk to keep it 0-0 at that moment. There was some spark. There was something to this game. In the second half, Liverpool did start off well. But just like the Atletico Madrid Barcelona game, I feel this was an instance of PSG knowing that this game is kind of won. Just manage this out. Because you have a 2-goal advantage. You have 45 minutes left to play. You know that you are superior in attack than Liverpool. And they're going to commit bodies forward. They're going to commit people forward. You just need to wait for the perfect opportunity to hit them in behind. And they did that. They found their opportunity. Liverpool had their chances. Rio came close. Who was it? Kirkes came close. There were shots from Salah from outside of the box. But nothing really that troubled the PSG defensive line. There was nothing that troubled PSG that much that they were sweating and they were on edge and that Anfield European night atmosphere was coming at them. Dembele, on the other hand, geez, like since his transition to striker, this guy is amazing because PSG did not, or I should say in a normal circumstance, most strikers would not have found the space, would not have found the shot, but Dembele on his weak foot does. He's just not bothered by that at all. The fact that he makes his way into an empty space outside Liverpool's box when no one is shutting him down, and then through a sea of players gets that shot away precise to the bottom corner is genius. Is absolute genius. And at that point, it's game over. 72 minutes in, Dembele gets the chance. Liverpool can't do much because they know they're beaten. They know they're done for. And then 91 minutes in, Dembele again gets his opportunity, puts it into the back of the net. 2-0 for PSG. 2 years in a row that PSG dumped Liverpool out of the Champions League. At least last year, there was some bit of a fight. It goes to penalties. But this year, over 2 legs, they were absolutely dominant. They absolutely had Liverpool's number, I should say. And the most damning indictment of this is Liverpool's attack. When they had the ball in the second half, when they had dominance, they didn't have patterns of play. They didn't threaten PSG doing something unique. They circulated the ball around. They took shots from outside of the box. Over the 2 legs of PSG and Liverpool, Salah has played the most balls into the box and has the highest expected assist and the second most touches in the box. And he only played 60 out of a possible 180 minutes. Underutilized. Not the best season for him, but underutilized when he was needed the most. And I think that's on Arne Slot. And the pressure is going to mount on him. I already think, I said this in the summer, I already think Liverpool, FSG, Arne Slot messed up the transfer window. They absolutely bungled the transfer window because they should have spent their money more wisely. I understand Liverpool fans talking about how they needed 2 strikers, but you didn't need Ekitike and Isak. I understand Liverpool fans' sentiment about how you needed Cover for Salah because he's going to leave at the end of the season? Sure. But you didn't need it in that moment. They needed cover in midfield. They needed cover defensively. They bungled the Gehi signing. And look, they're suffering for it now. They've had a disaster season. They've suffered from it. They've definitely had injuries, and I give them that. But this has been just demonstrative. These 180 minutes just tell you how bad Liverpool's season has been and the potential that they could have had if they planned it better, if they had better signings. All in all, Liverpool's form since early March: lost to Wolves. They beat Wolves in the FA Cup, lost to Galatasaray, draw to Spurs, which is still crazy to think about. Beat Galatasaray, lost to Brighton, lost to City in the FA Cup, lost to PSG, beat Fulham, which is good, lost to PSG again in the Champions League. 6 defeats, 1 draw, 3 wins in their last 10 games. The pressure is mounting on Arne Slot. I don't think he should be at Liverpool next season. I feel he will probably end up being there just because he brought them a Premier League trophy last year, and it's hard to negate that. But season to forget all round for Liverpool. Season to probably remember for PSG, who are now in line or setting themselves up amazingly to defend their Champions League. PSG have walked to the semi-final of the Champions League. Previewing tomorrow's game, they play the winner of Real Madrid or Bayern Munich. For me, I think they have the better of both of those teams. Just looking at Real Madrid Bayern Munich tomorrow, the fact that it's played at the Allianz Arena is such a big benefit for Bayern. They're a much better team. They're much better than Arbeloa's Real Madrid side. They do have Kylian, they do have Vinicius, they do have Jude Bellingham, and Madrid in the Champions League. I completely understand you don't write them off. I think tomorrow that game is going to be the one to watch. I think if you want excitement, if you want goals, if you want end-to-end football, you're not watching Arsenal Sporting. I will be watching Arsenal Sporting, but most people won't. And that game is going to bring a lot. I just feel it's going to be too much for Real Madrid to carve out a win against this Bayern Munich team with Kane, with Elise, with Gnabry, with Diaz. It's just unstoppable. But looking forward to that one because that will be the match to watch tomorrow. The other game tomorrow, my Arsenal versus Sporting at the Emirates Stadium. A week ago, this game looked easy. Taking a 1-0 win home, playing at Sporting, just looked like an easy game. Looked like the kind of game you'd want to play. Looked like the kind of advantage you'd want to play with. But I don't know, man. Just thinking about the game tomorrow after the Bournemouth defeat, I am nervous. I don't think this is a one that we will mess up. I think we'll still make it through. I'm nervous about how difficult we're going to make it for ourselves. Is this going to be one of those cases where we're 1-0 down for 90 minutes and then get 1 goal in extra time or at the 90th minute mark like Kai Havertz did last time? I don't know. But that's because I can't trust our attack right now. I think we've looked toothless in attack for far too long. Our combinations in the Bournemouth game were all off. We tried to go long, but there was no one winning the second balls. Gyökeres felt isolated. The combination of Martinelli and Nani Madueke doesn't work. Add to that the injury crisis with Declan Rice probably not available. I mean, Arteta's playing it too close to his chest. Declan Rice probably not being available. Saka probably not being available. Timber, Odegaard, Calafiori. We have a lot of players missing. And that just makes me really uncomfortable about tomorrow's game. The one thing that does fill me with some sense of positivity is I was thinking about this yesterday. And I was thinking of it more in terms of the City game on the weekend. Arsenal need to be angry. Arsenal have not been angry in far too long. They need to have rage. Something short of going two-footed in to a City player, a balanced rage, I guess, is the best way you can put it, because that is the only way we're going to beat City. And I think that's the only way we're going to beat Sporting comprehensively and get our confidence up. Because our confidence was shot after the League Cup final, after the Southampton game. We kind of had a boost after beating Sporting 1-0, which was a bit of a turgid game, but we managed that well. Barcelona, take notes, we managed that well. Thinking about the Bournemouth game, I think we went in with relief and we were too calm. We got beat because we made mistakes. I think this week we need to be angry because I think that anger will keep us focused. And Mikel Arteta, I was happy to see him say something on those lines in his pre-match press conference where he was talking about the fire in his belly. And I think like if he's angry, that's a good thing. If Gabriel, Saliba, Zubimendi, who's not had a good game, Ben White, if these players are just like angry focused tomorrow, I think that's the best case scenario for Arsenal, because we may win tomorrow, but how we win is going to be extremely important for players' confidence, for fans' confidence going into the weekend's game. I still predict Arsenal will come away as winners, but if we can do that with more than 2 goals, I think it's going to be beneficial for us. If we grind that game out, I don't think anyone's going to be happy going into the weekend. But hey, again, fun day in the Champions League. Barcelona knocked out, Liverpool knocked out. We have our first 2 semi-finalists. Let's find out who's going to make it in there into the semi-final as well. From Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, from Arsenal, Sporting. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like this, subscribe to the channel. Catch you in the next one.